Hey, hello everyone. This is Ranjit. Welcome to this channel. This is Data Scientist. In this series, we'll be learning the Excel VBA, and then we will also be touching probably the Word VBA, Microsoft Office Word, and then Outlook, MS Access. Right. So these are the tools which comes with Microsoft Office package. And then, as I said, VBA comes with all these apps or the products within Microsoft Office package, right? So we will learn many things within this series, and like I used to say that Excel is one of the tool, or Access also is one of the tool which you should really be learning, or while trying to be a data analyst or the data scientist. Many people say that you should learn Python if you want to have a good career in the field of playing with the data, but I would say no, that's not the fact, or at least that's not the fact when it comes to a skill that will really get you a job in the market, right? So I'll just show you, which all points that we will be covering, but it will not be restricted to those points only. Whatever comes to my mind apart from those points, we'll be covering those as well, right? So let's jump into it. So first we will be working with ranges in Excel, and then we'll be going through loops. So loops is something which you have, if you have worked on any other programming language. So loop is something you must already be knowing, but we'll be going through that. And then event programming is there. So when you click a button, or when you click on a button, some event occurs, right? So that will also be there. And then arrays are there, which you might already be knowing, but if not, then don't worry, we will be going through that. Then classes and collections, user forms are there. So user forms basically helps you to develop applications, or the interface on which you can basically click a button, or you can add a text box or something like that. Data mining is there, how to create pivot tables. So in Excel, you must know that you probably knowing how to create a pivot table, but in this we will be learning how to create a pivot table with the help of VBA, right? So and then user defined functions are there, which in which we create functions and how to utilize them. Then we'll learn how to create charts with the help of VBA, data visualization and conditional formatting. So basically, we'll add more graphs or charts in with the help of VBA. Then we have how to process the text files. So suppose we have text files from external hard disk, or as an external source of data, and then we will try to import that Excel file with the help of VBA, and then we will try to process it. Then we'll use MS Access as a backend. So MS Access is a tool which comes with the Microsoft Office package, and you can utilize it as a database, right? Like you use SQL as a big database. You can use MS Access also as a database. But the surprising fact is, like you can also use MS Access to develop applications. So basically, the front end and back end both can be MS Access as well. So it's pretty good. Most of the organizations does that as well, and it's really an amazing tool to work. MS Access. Then we will try to create APIs. Then error handling is something which we should all be knowing. Let it be any programming language. We should learn the error handling. So we'll be going through that. We will customize the ribbons. Sorry for the spelling, but yeah, we'll try to customize the ribbons, and then we will also create add-ins within the Excel. So the question comes in, why should you learn VBA? Even though there is another, I have already uploaded one video which clearly mentions that why should you learn VBA, and why should you learn Excel. Not only Excel, but I would say you should be knowing almost three or four tools which comes with the Microsoft Office package. So it's like Excel is there, Word is there, Outlook is there, MS Access is there. So these are the four main tools which comes with the Microsoft Office package. And I would say you should be knowing that. Why? Because I would say most of the organizations in this world, they are using Microsoft Office. Now, some uses Windows operating system, some uses Mac operating system, and some uses the mobile. But at the end of the day, it works with all these operating systems. And so that was the first point, and then when you develop applications with the VBA, technically we are using the now let's say you are using Excel to save the data, and then if you are developing application within the Excel, so you can think the data is already there, and then you are working on that data with the help of VBA. So it's pretty much very fast when it comes to data processing. Normally, what happens, you suppose you have the data in the Excel, and then you write code in some other technology, let's say Python. Then you import that data and then work on that data. So it's a bit slow, I would say, but not that much. But still, it's a bit slow because there is extra process added to import the data. But in this scenario, when the Excel is already there, and then you are writing the code behind the Excel, so it's pretty much fast. So VB can also be used to automate your daily activities, like creating charts. So um, whatever activities that you can do in Excel, right, you can automate that with the help of VBA. So that is one of the great thing about learning VBA. Whatever actions you are doing in Excel, you can convert that action into a VBA code, right? So let's say you are creating a chart, you are creating a process of creating report. So you can automate that process into a good at automating tool, right? Now, last but not the least, you can create. Now, let's say you are creating a report, and then it takes 4 to 5 hours to create that report, and that needs to be done on the daily basis. Now what you can do, you can create a macro based on that report. So basically, macro is a way of recording the actions that you are doing in an Excel sheet, and then saving that macro, and then you run the same macro, and then it will repeat the overall process that you did, or the actions that you did in an Excel. Now, the complication with the macro is, like, whatever you record. Now, let's say you have 10 records in an Excel sheet, and you record macro based on those 10 records. So every time when you run, it will process only 10 records, right? So at that moment, VBA comes into play. So basically, what VBA does, you can extend that 10 number of records in the code to millions of records, right? So that is a good part about VBA. VBA, I would personally, I would say VBA is an extension of macro. It's a great thing, I would say, to start a career with Excel VBA, especially. See, not every organization will help you to install Python in your system, right? So, but you have to start it from somewhere. So Excel is something you can learn of your own. So whenever people ask me, how should I learn Excel and how should I learn VBA? So the simplest thing is, if you're working in an organization, the data is already there with you. You just need to start using it. Start using it to create macro or create VBA code. And for the macro part and the VBA part, I will be teaching you very deeply how to write code. Let's start with the developer tab. I will show. So this is a developer tab which you normally see in the Excel sheet, and this is where you record macro. So we will go one by one, but sometimes this developer tab is not visible. So I will show you why, because it needs to be enabled. So I'll just show you my ribbons. So this is how the Excel looks if you are opening it, and if you're seeing it for the first time. So the developer tab is not there. So there are two ways in which you can make it visible. Let's go to any tab. Now, customize ribbon. So what I did the right click, customize ribbon, and in the customize ribbon tab or the category, you can go down and click on this developer tab, the checkbox, check mark, and then click on OK. So this is one way. Now there is another way. Let's go to file and then options. Customize ribbon is there, and then from here you can enable the developer tab. Go to this developer tab, and then we will go one by one. All these options, what are these, and then we will try to understand how these can be really helpful. Because see, many a times we just try to jump into a new technology or new product, and later on we don't know what to do with respect to a challenge, and that is where you don't understand what should you do. And the reason behind it, you don't know the product. So why I'll be going through this developer tab and then each items in this group. So this is code is one group, add-in is a one group, controls and XML. Why you should be going through all these is because until unless you don't know the features of a product, you will not be able to understand how to utilize it. Okay, now let's start with the each items over here. So in the code group, we have Visual Basic. So this is where you write the code. So when I clicked on this Visual Basic, this new window will pop up. This comes in from the background of Excel, right? So this is sheet one. So let's say you have sheet one, only one sheet over here. So you'll see the sheet one. Now let's say I'm adding one more sheet. So now if you see the code, you will see one more sheet over here. Now this is where you write the code. Now let's say I'm just so um this workbook, and then this is the code where you write the code. So I just commented it. Right. So this is one event. Workbook underscore open is an event. We will be going through each and every code in the future. I just wanted to show what is VBA. How does it look? Right now, the VBA can be accessed in one more way. So if you press Alt and F11, the same code window will open up. Right. So there are two ways. One is to click on Visual Basic, and then another one is a Alt F11. Now we have macros. So basically, macros will here if we had any other recorded macro, so it will show over here, and then basically you can run that macro or you can edit it, right? So these we will be going through all these options in the future. I just wanted to show you the buttons over here with this relative reference. But basically the when you record the macro, it basically what does, it will record also the movement of the cursor, your you whatever you move with the help of the cursor, so it will record that as well. But with absolute reference, it will show that you jumped from cell C4 to cell E4, right? So that will what it will be recording. So that is the difference of having using the relative reference or the absolute reference. Then we have macro security. Macro security is basically in default, this is what it is, disabled VBA macros with notification. So it is recommended normally to keep the VBA code disable or the macros disable. The reason being, sometimes you receive, these macro files from as an attachment in the mail, and if you open it and if it is like your Excel setting is enabled for the macros to run, sometimes those code can have a a virus, and that can really impact your system. So when I say impact the system, VBA can delete your system file as well. So this add-in group is normally used to add or run the add-ins. This control group is basically used to insert. Now let's say you are running a macron. You if you want to add a button, right? So you can add a button over here, and then you can basically give a macro or assign a macro to this button. Uh, See, so basically it has become a button, but since there is no macro assigned to this button, it's giving you error. And then we have view code. So basically it takes you back to the code, VBA code. This tab contains options to, import or export XML documents. Now let's try to understand what is XLS, or, the extensions that are basically supported in Excel files, right? So we have .xlsx file. So when I say .xlsx file, let's say you can save this file into, let's say, save as, browse, and then this is xlsx file, right? So xlsx file is basically a collection of XML files, and then it packed together into a single file, right? So that is xlsx file, and then we have, let's go through this. Then we have xlsxm file. So these are like macro enabled files. So when you create macro, you need to save the file with this extension, right? Then we have XLSXB. So basically, these are the binary files wherein you can have 1 million records saved in the Excel in this file format. Now we have XLS file. So basically, these are like the previous versions of Excel. Like before 2007, the Excel extensions were saved with with this extension, right? So, but one of the only limitation was like only 65,000 records could be saved in previous versions, like from 97 to 2003 versions. Then later on, they migrated, or when they brought up a new version of Excel or the Microsoft Office product, they increased it to 1 million records, right? We will go through maybe this CSV file. Basically, it's a comma separated file. First, I will show you how the macro can be saved. So let's say save as, browse. I'm saving it as a macro enabled file. So if you see, the extension got changed to XLSM, right? So let me just minimize this. And if I say save, now it's XLSM. So now let's talk about macro security. So sometime back, the word VBA, macro was used to deliver a virus called Melissa virus. After that, the Microsoft came up with the security in the VBA part. From running the macros in the systems automatically. So what they came up with is with a solution named macro security. So now the macros cannot be run automatically. Like you have to enable them when you are running. Or they came up with one more option of a trusted location. So if you're saving a macro in a trusted location, then you don't need to enable the macro all the time. I'll just show you how you can save the macro in a trusted location. Go to developer tab and then macro security and then trusted locations. And then here, if you add a new location, let's say add new location, I'll browse this location. I'll say that I want to add this location in the trusted location, right? And then I'm also clicking subfolders of this location are also trusted, and then click OK. And then if you see, I've added this location as well in the trusted location, and then okay, they have a trusted location. So with this trusted location, then the macro will not ask you to enable the macros. Now let's say you don't want to add a trusted location into your in your Excel, or in your Excel product. So what option is left with you is enabling or disabling the macros in your system. So let's click on macro security and then macro settings. Right, so we'll go one by one. So disable VBA macros without notification. So with this option, only those macros will run which are saved in a trusted location. Apart from that, if any of the Excel files which has the macro, it will not run. Right. So normally, I mean, that's it. Either it will run. If it runs, it will run on the, if it is saved in the trusted location. Otherwise, it will not run. Disable VBA macros with notification. So with this notification, what it does, it normally gives you a small yellowish ribbon over here. It states that your macro is disabled, and if you want to run this macro, you have to enable it. So this is the kind of a notification which you will get in the Excel sheet. It will ask you to enable the content. So basically, it is asking you to enable the macro, right? So this option comes only when you have this disabled VBA macros with notification selected. Now you have disabled VBA macros except digitally signed macros. So basically, you need to get a digitally signed digital sign to run this macro. So it's a bit hectic task to get this digital sign. So let's forget it. This option, enable VBA macros. So I'll not see, basically in I don't know. I mean, normally I keep this option enabled, or I keep this option selected. But generally, it is said that you should not be selecting this. Normally, whatever the macro that you receive, which or Excel that you receive which has macro, it can run, you can run that macro. If it doesn't have any harmful code, then it's okay. Otherwise, it could play havoc with your system. Now let's start to record a macro and then run it. So you click on the record macro from the developer tab, right? So macro name is the name of the macro that you want to give it. So this is a default one. So macro one is one, is a default name that is given by the Microsoft, and then you can give any name you whatever you would like to have, but keep a standard of giving a name. You cannot give a name of a macro like APC123 when it is supposed to create copy paste a data from one to another. Give a relevant name to the macro so that it is easier for you to understand what that macro does, right? Now, this shortcut key is really good if you want to, run a macro without clicking on any button. So let's say if I'm typing Control R, or let's say Control C. So what it will do, normally when you use a Control C, it basically copies the data from the Excel sheet. But the Control C will, in this scenario, the Control C will run the macro instead of copying the data. So try to give a shortcut key or the key over here, which might not be useful for you in this Excel sheet. You can use a new workbook or store the macro in this workbook or the new workbook. So I would personally suggest you to use this workbook, not even new workbook. This personal workbook macro, this is not visible, but this gets hide. So basically, what happens, even if you save this macro, it will run only when as soon as you open any Excel, and then it will run automatically. So try to avoid this. Try to use this workbook and then give a proper description of this, the macro. Um, so I'll just remove its Control C because this is the action that we are going to do. So micro one and then copy from one cell to another. Okay. And then click on OK. And then if you see over here, the macro is recording. Now let's say I'm writing something over here like Ranjit, right? So I'm copying from C4 to E4, right? And then stopping this macro. You can stop from here as well as you can stop from here, right? The option that you had. Now let's go back and see the code. So if you see, the code came over here. So this is module one, and then if you see, this is macro one, and the description is this is what the description that I gave. Copy from one to cell to another. If you go through one by one, the code one by one, we selected C4 first, and in the active cell we wrote Ranjit, right? And then we selected again C4, and then we selected and copied that data, and after copying we selected E4 and then pasted that data in that sheet, right? So this is how you write the run the macro, or you record the macro, not run the macro. Now let's run this macro, right? So I'm just deleting this data. Now I'm saying that I want to run the macro. Let's click on macros, and then this is the macro one, and I'm asking it to run. So I'm clicking on run. So what it did? Oh, so what it did? It copied the data from C4 to E4. Want to see it again? I'll show you. Macro run, right? So it wrote it to E4 as well. So this is how you record the macro and run the macro. Right now we tried to run this macro with the help of this button in the developer tab. Right now, what we will do, we will be running this macro with the help of a button in the quick access toolbar. Right, customize quick access toolbar, and then here we select for all documents. Right, and then here we select macros, and then this is the macro that we recorded right now. Click on add button and select this macro, and then click on modify, and let's say we are giving this icon over here, display name, and then click on OK. So now if you see over here, we have a small button over here which is called macro one, and if I click on this button, it again did what the macro did. It copied the data from C4 to E4. So this is how you assign a button to a macro, and then you can give a icon to that macro button. Now what we are going to do, we are going to assign a button within the Excel sheet, right? So in the developer tab, so for that, click on insert from control, and then throw a button over here, right? And then give a macro. So we created macro one earlier. We click on macro one and then click on OK. Right. So let's give this right now, since the macro name is macro one, we will give the name as macro one itself. So let's say macro one. You can give whatever the name you want to have. And protection alter. Let's say I want to give green. So you have the green text for this macro. Now, if I click on this, it will again do the same activity, copying the data from C4 to E4. Now, let's understand some of the windows that you might be using very frequently in the Visual Basic window. So this is the Visual Basic window. So one of the most important tool that I use is edit option. Right. So in this edit option, basically what you can do comment block or undo comment block, or intent tab as well. So this comes very handy because there is no shortcut, or I don't know the shortcut to comment the code, but basically I use this comment block. So if you want to comment this, right? Now this is where you write the code in the Excel VBA. So like I shown you earlier, you type Alt F11, or you click on this the Visual Basic button. You will get the behind code window. Now there are a couple of good things about this. One is, if you right click on this, you will get insert user form, which is basically the form to create application. This is the module that how you create the module. So when you record a macro, those macros are automatically saved in this module. So and then we have class modules. So class modules help you to create your own objects, and then you can share it with your colleagues or the co-workers. We will discuss more about this in the coming videos or in the future. And then you have import file. Basically, you can import the module if you have saved it somewhere over here. Then yes, this is your print option. And then what else? One of the most important thing, the immediate window. This is really important, and you should learn how to use the immediate window, because for an example, I'll just show you. Know, let's say I'm selecting this one, and then it's basically used to debug the code. Cell.text, and then it will show you legit, because this is active cell right now. So basically this is the immediate window, and you can utilize it to debug the code, and it is really useful. So yeah, this is it, just for an introduction, and we will be going through all these in deep or in depth in some time, right? Okay, great.